On this channel, we like trying out many weapons and types of content from PvP to PvE. We explain how things work for new players while also entertaining the veterans. In previous videos, we leveled battle axes and crossbows to 100 spec. Now, we'll be doing all types of open world content to level the Shadowcaller, fight other players, and see just how close we can get to 100 specs. This build has great sustain, clearing speed, and dueling potential, so let's see it in action. Going straight to the Avalonian roads, one of the first mobs we encounter is a tier 6 boss. The first spec levels for the Shadowcaller come quickly with this boss, and the loot is not bad either. Right now we are playing with the duo Fire Staff, and there are a few enemies orbiting around us, so we are getting ready for a fight. We don't have much spec on the Shadowcaller yet, so with the build we're using right now we reach about 1300 IP. The enemies we're fighting right now have a bit higher IP than us, however our builds are very good for straight up dueling. We see that they are not very well coordinated since the Bear Paws dismounts and starts fighting the two of us without the help of his Demon Fang friend. He still puts up a good fight since he has a Hellion Jacket that he can use against the two of us. I use my Hunter Hood to stall as much as possible, then I also use my Gigantify potion. The Demon Fang joins the fight, and since I am low HP I can use my Demon Boots to chase the Bear Paws and finish him off. Right afterwards I have to use my Hellion Jacket to stay alive, otherwise the Demon Fang could use his E to finish me off. Luckily he misses the final E. At this point the Martlock Cape and Hellion Jacket combination is enough to keep me alive. The Demon Fang manages to get away at the last moment. We grab the spoils of the Bear Paw and then we split the loot with our duo. Overall this was a tough fight, and had the Demon Fang dismounted a bit earlier to help the Bear Paws, we probably would have lost the fight, however we took advantage of the hesitation. In the next PvP encounter we're 1v1ing against a pair of dual swords that has even IP with us. We begin the fight by applying a few Q stacks and kiting him as much as we can. He misses his W and then he is straight into my Hunter Hood. This gives us a big advantage right at the beginning of the fight. I make a mistake here and I activate my Hellion Jacket right after activating my Demon Boots. The correct play here would have been to wait to activate the Hellion Jacket until he jumped on me again. This would have allowed me to get as much value as I can from my jacket. However, since he has no abilities to chase me down anymore, the Q stacks on him are enough to take him down. If you're enjoying this content and would like to see more, make sure you leave a subscribe as it greatly helps the channel. Now, back to the video. A few minutes later we managed to find another tier 8 epic boss alongside our duo. If you get lucky in the roads of Avalon and find enough of these mobs, you can get a lot of fame per hour. For this reason, I think the roads of Avalon are very worth it to do fame farming activities, and they're also very fun since you encounter people and can practice PvP as well. Even when not finding bosses on chests, it is worth it to do the mobs that you find randomly roaming the roads. Here we are in a tier 8 Avalonian road, and every monster we get is about 100,000 fame. This quickly adds up, as you can see here. I would always recommend clearing a tier 8 zone if you find one. However, be careful as tier 8 zones can be very dangerous. In the next clip, we find a chest and manage to loot it right before we get ganked by a group of 3 people. I barely managed to open the chest as I see the name at the top of my screen, so I try to loot the bags and the books and get out as fast as I can. Having barely escaped with my life, I go to the next road and find another large chest. This time it is tier 4, however I am solo, so this is gonna be quite a decent amount of fame anyway. When doing these camps I always try to do the boss first, as for me it is most important to get the fame given by the boss. However, in the case of this camp I am unable to pull the boss without the mobs also pulling, so I have to clear those first. This gives us the opportunity to see just how fast the Shadowcaller is at clearing groups of mobs. Using the 3rd Q and the 4th W you have a lot of AoE damage, while also being able to move a lot to dodge the skill shots of the mob. The loot you can get from these chests varies quite a lot, however an epic chest should always be around 200k silver. However, from green chests, usually the loot is pretty bad to very bad. As you're roaming the roads, you will have to travel through tier 4 zones. Now, I don't think these are worth to clear the mobs in. However, if you do find an upgraded mob, I will still clear it because it still gives a decent chunk of fame. Now, usually while I'm traveling to an Avalonian road, I will still farm the open world mobs as I see them because they do give a lot of fame. In this clip, as I'm farming a few mobs, I notice somebody trying to gank me at the edge of the screen, so I run away. As I manage to inspect the ganker at the edge of my screen, I realize he is using Wanderlust, so I will not be able to run away from him. He catches me and starts attacking. Since he caught me off guard, I am on fame farming ability, so there is no way I can ever win this fight. I have to get away from him, otherwise I just lose. It is looking very bad for me, and he purges everything I have off of me, and he also roots me while I try to sprint away. The only hope I have is trying to use my Hellion Jacket to heal up. As I do this, I somehow get lucky enough that the archer stuns him with his arrow. This gives me enough time to get away and use my invisibility potion since the curse stacks expire. His boots are on cooldown, so he cannot chase me down right now. I get away, heal up, switch my spells, and then I go back to him and challenge him to a proper 1v1 this time. I switch my abilities and I use Grudge this time. This gives me huge DPS potential. I also use a resistance potion which allows me to counter some of his damage. The sequence of purges in this fight is pretty important. As the fight begins, I use Sprint and Grudge on myself, which he uses Fiend Call to purge off of me. This allows me to use the Hunter Hood to neglect some of the damage, which he decides to use his Life Curse E to purge off. Since he just used both of his purges, this allows me to use my Infernal Shield and get full uptime on it, which gives me a huge stat advantage in this fight. We get some nice profit off of this fight and we go back to the roads, where we find an uncontested chest. As we continue onwards, we run across two players and decide to challenge them to a 1v2 fight. The abilities I choose for this engagement are specific. I use the Sickle Q and the Root W, which allows me to kite them. Both the regular bow and the dagger build have a lot of damage if I just stay near them, so I have to win this fight by continuously kiting them and hoping they overcommit, which they do. As soon as both of them stack up on top of me alongside with this wolf mob, I know it's the time to use my AoE ability. I use my Hellion Jacket, root them in place, and also use my Shadowcaller E to regen as much life as I can. After looting both of them, it is time to run away and go back home. After we exit the roads, we find this poor nature staff just farming in the open world, and since we run across his Q spell, he gets dismounted and then we just chase him down and gank him. I told you the Shadowcaller can do all types of content, so to prove it, we're moving on to a solo dungeon. As we're roaming the zone, we randomly find a 7.4 solo dungeon, so we decide to just go in and clear it as fast as we can. I had expected a bit more from a 7.4 dungeon, however the fame is quite good, so obviously if you find one of these in the open world it's definitely worth doing them, if you have a build that can clear them. A bit later we get 100 mastery in shield. Next up we fight against another nature staff in the Roads of Avalon. This is a very grindy fight because both of us have a lot of heals, so whoever can outdamage the other will win this fight. Throughout the fight I try to dodge as many of his Qs as I can. Some of the mobs really do pack a punch in the Roads of Avalon, so this is why I recommend at least a 1300 IP. However, we clear a few more of them and we manage to get 100 mastery in Curse Staffs. Throughout the roaming I managed to spot the blue core being carried away from our hideout, so I decided to try and contest it, thinking that maybe it is just taken by a runner that I can easily kill, and I am right. However, this runner is very annoying to chase down since he has minor boots and all sorts of abilities to create distance. I have to force the minor boots out of him and then I can mount up and chase him since he will have a 2-minute cooldown on the boots, so I'll be able to just dismount again and be able to kill him. I pick up the core and start carrying it towards my hideout. As I'm carrying it towards my hideout, I get contested by another solo player. He tries to duel me, but as soon as I engage on him, he runs away. Shortly after, we get visited by the player we just killed, however he re-geared in a 6.3 battle bracer set, and at that point I was certain he was going to bring more friends with him, so I decided to leave the core and run away. However, I see the solo player that just tried to contest me a while ago, so I decide to party up with him and try to get the core back. A Grail Seeker joins the fight and they try to steal the core and run away with it, however we keep chasing them down. Both of them have great builds to run with the core, however if they commit to taking the core they cannot mount up, so eventually we will be able to catch up to them. If I didn't have the help of this kind solo player, I would not have been able to take the core back to the hideout. Shortly after I get the blue core, he spots another epic core and again we team up and try to get it. This time it is contested by different people and it seems like they decide to escort me with the core for some reason without trying to dismount. After the stranger leaves by only saying a few parentheses, we decide to keep roaming the black zone. Lady Luck smiles on us and we manage to find a random upgraded tier 8 mob in the roads of Avalon. It is a very tough fight, but we managed to take him down with one hit away from them, and our grand reward is 2 million fame. Our next fight is against a crossbow user that is using a build very similar to the solo dungeon build we used in a previous video on the channel. As we saw in that video, this build can deal a lot of damage very quickly and this caught me off guard as we start this fight. Barely get any curse stacks on him and he already gets me down to 30% HP, which is a bad start for me. However, I decide to go all in and use all my cooldowns to try to recover as much of my health as I can, and he decides to run away, which gives me the chest. That crossbow build is awesome, and if you're interested to find out more in depth how it works, then you can check out this video on my channel, where we get from 0 to 100 specs running solo dungeons and seeing just how much fame and profit we can make off of these. By the end of this video, we managed to get about 80 specs in our Shadowcaller. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a subscribe and I'll see you in the next video.